Hey, how's it going? I'm Chase Rayberg, and I've created my own model of communication. This model is based off of the transaction model of communication, where there are two sender receivers, and each is taking turns sending information and receiving it, and then sending it back, and this person is receiving it. And they just go back and forth. So I based my model of communication off of that. And this model of communication would most closely relate to probably someone who's blind. So I think about a person that may be blind, that they can send all sorts of information to somebody else, because they can receive information from them in multiple different ways, be it their body language, hand signals, facial expressions, and the sound of their voice, and as well as just pretty much anything they can see, while the blind person can only really receive information from the other people by the sound of their voice. And so with that, I've created my model of communication, and I call it the Marco Polo model of communication. The reason I call it Marco Polo model of communication is because of the old game. It's a pool game where there's a bunch of people in a swimming pool, and they're all swimming around, but there's one person who shuts his eyes, and his goal is to find all of the other people and tag them. If he tags them, they're out. Well, he can only receive information from all these people through the sound of their voice, but they're able to gather all sorts of information from him as to his location and all this other stuff. So they're able to run away and easily evade him the entire time, while he is only able to find them and locate them based on the sound of their voice. So in this model of communication, you have two sender receivers. Now, this person right here can receive all sorts of information from this person in multiple different formats, be that their body language, the sound of their voice, anything like that. But this person over here can only receive information in one particular way. In the Marco Polo example, that would be through the sound of their voice, as well as someone who's blind. But I also think of somebody like Helen Keller, who eventually, after a long time of trying different things, they found that she could communicate through someone touching her palm. And she was eventually able to learn a lot of stuff through that, but that was really the only way that she could communicate, was through touch. And so that's kind of what this model is based off of. You can see the person over here that's able to receive only one form of information. They've got a lot of noise hanging around them. You can imagine the psychological noise that would go on in your mind if you were in a situation like that. I mean, the game Marco Polo, it's a lighthearted way of looking at this, but think about Helen Keller. I mean, that must have been terrible, that there was no sound, she couldn't see anything, and she was just in her own world with her own thoughts. There must have been all sorts of psychological noise going on. So the noise is psychological predominantly, and really that's kind of the whole basis behind this whole thing. Is you have one person. It's more of this is a frustrating point for this person. And so I think that's a really good model of communication. I think it really encompasses something that we may not deal with all the time, but people do. And I think if we learn to communicate using this, that in the world, when we come across people like that, we'll be able to communicate a whole lot better. So that's my model of communication, and thank you.